evening. This is the August 6th Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting, and we're going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. So if I could have a roll call, please, from the clerk.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we don't. Commissioner Gibberti?
Present.
Commissioner White?
Present.
Madam Chair Jordan?
Present.
Commissioner Bronk?
Present.
And I am present. All present.
Okay, I'm sorry. I made a kind of a mess. Okay. So the next thing is approval of the meeting minutes for June 18th. Rebecca has sent us a copy via email, and there's also a copy in your packet that she gave us. And has everyone had a chance to take a look at those?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion that to accept the minutes as presented. I need a second.
I wasn't here. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes as written. These are the minutes, June 18th minutes. As written, and we have it seconded. The motion was made by Mr. Gibberti, seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
One abstention. Motion carries. Okay. In sewer business, I'm going to skip right over that because we don't have any speaker tonight. It's just catching up on a lot of some of the old things we have. But Guy, I guess you're next with your sewer superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I want to start on something that I found very interesting. I was playing golf last week, and I was playing golf with a gentleman, an environmental attorney. I have his card. I want to turn it over to you. And what I find fascinating, it's Paul Revere III, and he's direct descendant of Paul Revere. So on the light side, it started off with a really fascinating one. So I'll give it to you. Hold on to that, that we'll ever need him. But I thought that was the neatest thing in the world.
Law offices.
He's an environmental attorney out of Centerville, Mass. Paul Revere. And I looked at the name, I thought it was a joke, but he said no. So it's really fascinating. So anyways, just a little lighthearted there before we get going. First thing I wanted to talk about was the Granicus agreement. It's been reviewed by Mr. Bowen, and he said it was okay. We sent it over to Granicus, and they sent us back a line that I had to send back to Mr. Bowen. And what it stated was that the contract could be, it's a one-year contract, but it could be renewed annually. And Mr. Bowen is saying, yes, it can be, but it can be no more than 3 years by law. So he's adding that line up to 3 years. So there's 2 more renewals that we can do in this existing contract. After the 3rd year, we have to renegotiate. So he's adding that into that. So I just want you to be aware of that. And the other thing they sent back to us was the licensing agreement. And he's happy, he's fine with that, but he's going to okay all that. So I'm waiting for him to get me back. He's going to add in the line of the 3 years and approving the license. I'll send that back to Granicus, and then they'll sign off on it. Then I'll bring it back, and I'll have the board, and then Derek will sign off on it because Derek is the procurement officer. So that I just want to give you the update on that. So it's been through town council, and he has no issues with it, and I'm pretty excited about that to get that far with it. So we're real close. And the next order of business when we get this finally approved is you folks have to decide on a name or whatever. I forget what you said. So that's going to be up to you folks to decide on how you want to proceed with the name or whatever. So I'll leave that in your corner.
I had a thought on that, just in terms of naming it when I had talked to Stephanie what we were going to do about it. And I thought, well, the purpose of the whole commission is really for watching the quality of the bay water. Really, what we're really about, in the long run, since we're taking care of what gets put out and outflow into the Agawam and hence out into the bay water. So would it be kind of interesting if we called it the Wareham Bay Watchers? So just throwing that out there as one of the possibilities of other, brainstorm some other ones. But in my spare time, I was just brainstorming names for that.
It's kind of neat.
Nothing else to do, So yeah, well, the Bay Watchers or something because we're watching the Bay Waters,
What was on
It just doesn't take, it reemphasizes why we're here. We forget sometimes what.
Why,
goes
yeah,
on,
the
why we're
big
here.
picture why we are here
It
is to
reemphasizes the bay
get the
is
water
that
quality of the bay
important.
water, so.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. The
Sorry.
bills are going out.
I suggest that.
I also include in your packet, just the bills, sewer bills are going out. And so in your packet, I included what's on back of the bill. And what's on behind of the bill, it talks about the EDU system, where to call for questions about the bill, and it also tells them how to apply for an abatement. And in the application, I believe it says there's a time period. And so everything's in there, and we put it, and it was good to have it in there so they'll know the procedures of abatements. It's 30 calendar days after the final due date. Beyond that, you cannot apply for an abatement. You have to wait till the next cycle. And so it's all there. So I wanted you to be aware that in the back of the bill, we do give them some information on how to, where to go for help, and also what the bill is. And then also attached is the newsletter, if you will, that we're going to put with this bill. Sorry about that. The newsletter that's going to go with this bill. So that's attached also for your review.
And I believe the newsletter is going to be printed on blue paper.
Yes, they do have thin blue paper. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Per request, it's going to happen. I think next is Mill Pond Diner tie-in. Mill Pond Diner has requested from this board to tie into the sewer system. There's a history to Mill Pond Diner in Tremont Nail. The town owns part of that development. The country store owns part of it, the Assad Trust, and Mr. Goyette's tied into that whole entire system. Back in, I forget the exact days, I have a whole file on it, but I think it's in the 90s, late 90s. They put, Tremont Nail put this whole system in, and with Mr. Goyette from the Mill Pond Diner. There's been some dissension about Mill Pond Diner going into that system because technically Mr. Assad owns, when he bought that part of Tremont Nail, he owns that. It's a private pump station. We own the Tremont Nail side, and Mr. Goyette has since sold the property, or passed away. His wife since sold it to Mr. Z. A year ago, I think it was, or maybe a little over that, there was a blockage. I think you're all aware of that. And so since then, there's been some bad blood about sewer going across. So I don't need to get into details unless you ask me, but nonetheless, Mr. ZD, to eliminate it, says I'll just come across Elm Street and tie it to our 2-inch main. So he's asking that permission. I recommend we grant it, but here's the issue. He needs an easement to tie into us because you're going to come across the road. The easement can only be granted, and on there you'll see the easement. The easement has to be granted at town meeting. We cannot grant the easement. His lawyer and folks have to put the legal documents together, do a petition, and get it to the town meeting and get it approved at town meeting. That's their issue, not ours.
Does Mr. Ziti know that he has to get it in? Is he going to try and get it into fall?
He's trying. Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
ma'am. Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Madam Vice Chair, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we've talked to Mr. Mello, who is Mr. Ziti's point man.
Yep.
We explained everything to him. I was today sitting with the engineer, Mr. Bill Madden from GAF Engineering, and we talked to Mr. Mello and informed him that this is his responsibility. And I stated to them at that point in time that if the sewer commission is granted in permission, it would be conditioned upon that easement because we'd want a easement in place, voted at the town meeting, approved, before we would allow you to physically tie in, because he has to dig across our property to tie in. So they're all aware of it, and that responsibility is his. So if this board decides, and the reason why they were asking permission is that they were going to do all the work up till that point. They wanted to start that. Mr. Barbosa, Tom Barbosa is doing the work, and he wants to get going, putting the tanks in, because there's a lot of pump chambers and all that stuff. And the line to Elm Street stopped there waiting for the permission. If they miss the deadline for the fall town meeting, they'll have to wait till the spring.
Yeah.
And so they're asking permission to get to that point, and then we can condition upon the other part. So that's what they're asking of us, and so that's what I'm bringing to the board
Madam Chair.
for your direction.
Mr. Ziti's been a long time resident of this town and business owner and a good businessman, and he's been a good, he's done a lot for the children of this town. He's done a lot for a lot of people. But putting that aside, I think it's a good business decision too, to let someone, you know, with a business so close by I think it's, you know, I would support helping them, you know, get the easement. And I think if this board does vote in favor of helping Mr. Ziti, that, you know, that we are able to speak at it at town meeting too, because we're gonna be asked. So, that's just my feelings.
I share your sentiment.
You share the same, yeah?
Yes, I share your sentiment, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question, Guy.
Yes.
If Mr. Ziti comes across with this, he's gonna dig up the road and come across, this is all gonna be at his expense.
Everything's at his, the town has no obligations, no expenses in this entire process. There'll be tie-in fees, and everything else is his. It's
Okay.
his. So what that would bring about is what we have, an $18,000 sewer development fee. Would minus from that fee all the costs, because our policy, and it should be in your book, but I'll provide it for you, states that if he eats the cost of doing this system, if he has to tie in his cost, if it's pumps involved, which it is, then that cost that he pays is deducted from the most recent betterment, which is $18,000, which is sewer development fee. So what we'd take is he'd submit to us the cost of doing this, and either it would be greater or less than, and at that point there would be a wash or an owed amount of money. And that's, so I'll submit the policy to you when we get to the permitting part of it, because he has to still pull permits in the whole 9 yards, and that'll be all in the permits.
As long as we don't end up owing him any.
Right.
We owe him no money.
Oh,
The
okay.
worst case
I mean-
scenario is the 18 is waived
Is it-
because
yeah.
he's over that, and so
I-
we pay him nothing.
Yeah.
But he has to be, you know, responsible at 18. But I have a feeling that this process is going to be well in the excess of 18.
Yeah.
Well in the excess of 18.
Yeah.
He's responsible for the road. He pulls out a road permit. He's responsible to refurbishing the road or repairing the road exactly to the specs originally. So that's his responsibility in the road. So I can't see it being less than $18,000. And then the easement has to be put back and maintained. So that's all on him. Yes, ma'am.
So do we have to vote to approve it, or?
So we're, just to clarify, we would be voting to approve that he can go forward with all of the work to bring it to the point of having to go before the town
Town
for
meeting.
the town meeting to get an easement. So they are going to be doing the excavation and installing pumps and things like that, just waiting for the easement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As far as him doing that, I suppose he can put the tanks in now. That's his business. But what I think to move forward, he's asking us if we allow him to connect, and we're going to say yes, contingent upon the easement, because he can get to that point, and he can't go any further.
Right.
Because the easement is going to hold him up. He needs an easement in place before he can complete the
Okay.
tie-in.
Well, I move, Madam Chairman, that we approve Mr. Ziti's request.
Second.
Well, just to clarify, we're gonna
He can't do anything
right,
until
we're gonna approve his request to connect contingent upon approval at town meeting of an easement.
Yes, ma'am.
Right,
Okay.
Yes,
exactly.
ma'am.
All right, so that's the motion on, and it's been seconded. Anybody have any more discussion on that? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of allowing Mr. Ziti to connect contingent upon approval of an easement at town meeting, whether it be the fall or the spring town meeting. Do I have to specify that? No, just a town meeting.
Town meeting,
Okay.
yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. He has the permission to connect with those contingencies
Thank you.
upon approval of an easement.
Great Hill Mobile Home Park will be coming to this board asking permission to connect to the sewer system. And there really isn't going to be a connection, it's going to be an extension, because they already have 66 mobile homes tied into it. Right, so it's really going to be an extension or an increase of flow is what it's really going to be. And that hasn't come before us yet, but it'll be coming shortly. So why I'm presenting this is our review of our engineer, and this is the peer review. At the trailer, the actual plans for this project is on the, we picked up the table for the plans. It's on the table, so anybody wants to even review the plans. It's going to change. We met last Wednesday, we met with Bader, we met with the engineers, which is Thorndike, I believe it is. And we met with them, and this is going to change because the issue is the gravity part of it. There's going to the flow is going to be substantial. It's going to tax our pump station. Right now, presently, the pumps do 200 gallons per minute. He's proposing 206 gallons per minute. So that doesn't work for us. So he's going to either have to upgrade the pump station. He suggested he may go to E1 pumps and put 4 trailers per pump. And for him, it may be wise only because when you have this, it's a retirement community, and some people go to Florida, and so there'll always be one system keeping those pump active. So that's what he was suggesting. But I told him to present that. So our next meeting will be in a couple Wednesdays, and they'll bring that forward. And then we'll get them on the agenda. They'll bring this all to you and present it to you. But I wanted to give you a head start on this.
My question is, I thought we were looking at how these mobile homes are charged for their rates. You
and I were doing that.
Yeah. Oh,
so-
yeah, that's right.
That's-
You and I.
So that's between you and I and Ty and Bon and Guy when we get in there, right.
But
just
do we
making
want to get into adding anything on until we know how this is done yet?
No, well, it would
It'll be EDU now.
it would be ED, right,
Per
I was
trailer.
gonna say.
Oh, per
Correct.
trailer.
Per
Absolutely.
trailer,
Okay.
correct.
They'd say EDU per trailer.
Oh, is that the way?
Yeah,
Okay.
right,
Yes.
and that's,
And-
right.
And
Well,
then it'll be water flow. When you get to that, then it'll be one bill to what we do is we charge them now for 66 EDUs.
Right.
We have 66 mobile homes, retirement homes on the system. So we charge them 66 EDUs. As he expands it, we'll charge him as he puts a home on, we'll add an EDU.
Oh,
And
okay.
so that's going to be his responsibility. We bill him directly. When you get to finish with your project, and we move that way, then it'll be water, but he'll pay for the whole water, so it'll be one bill to him. And how he divvies it to the mobile homes is going to be his issue.
that's a part piece.
That's going to be up to him. I don't know how he's going to do that.
Right.
But that's real. We're just going to charge him one bill because he has one main meter coming in, and that's the meter we're going to work off.
Oh, there's only
So-
one meter? There's not 1 meter per trailer?
No,
No.
No.
No, it's one meter.
for the park.
right, which is why they get billed as a single bill, but they get billed 66 EDUs. So they have one SOAR water pollution
Right.
control facility account
Right.
with 66, and what he does now is he just passes that EDU rate into the park fees that people pay anyway. So it really won't change when we look at that, when we look at the rates. So adding it in now won't really change what we're looking at project-wise.
And what he suggested in consideration of the homeowners there is to phase this in over 6 or 7 or 8 years. Because if he does it all, the cost is going to be that much greater, and he's got to spread it out. So he thought if he did sections, then the cost, if he did it over a 7 or 8 or 9 year period, I'm not so sure, we'll see that. But he can ease the cost in annually to the residents because they're all retired and lessen the impact to them, opposed to just banging them right up front. But that'll all be presented to the board because they'll sit here and present it to you. They'll probably be their attorney, their engineers, and the owner, and they'll present to you what they're planning on doing, and then you can take an advisement and make a decision based upon the facts. And I'm trying to get a head start because this is going to come up soon. So I'm trying to get a head start so you can review this. The plans are down at the trailer to actually look at the layout of the park itself and how they're planning on doing this. And every time I get an update, I'll leave the update there so you can follow along where we are. So when it comes in front of you, then you'll be able to talk and discuss it, knowing the facts, and ask the right questions and be prepared for their presentation.
So then I have a question of clarification on what you just said. If he's going to be phasing in the pumps over time, yet the addition of the mobile homes are going to be adding a strain to the existing pumps that we have, is that going to be a problem for us? if
That's
he
a good
does-
question. Here's how I'm going to handle it. Here's how I suggest, and my engineer suggests this also. There's going to be an impact, so he's going to have to do something with the pump station. We're going to ask that to be done right up front. Because we can't wait. He can say to us, we'll phase it in and we'll do it when we get there. I have no guarantee of that. So we're going to say, this is the impact when it's complete. You will mitigate the impact that the completion will mandate. And then as you ease it in, we don't care because when you get to the point, the mitigation's already there. The pumps are sized properly and everything that we need is already there.
Okay.
So that's what we suggested in our last meeting, that whatever the mitigation is, the 206, you have to do it right away, the pump. Even though it's not going to see it right away, we still want it updated right away.
So you're suggesting that in part of the deal in the package, we're going to ask him to upgrade that pump station anyway to a pump that can handle the 206.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then if he follows through on his plan to actually install his own later on, then that's just gonna make it that much better for everyone all the way around and taking the load off of that pump station a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because there's a secondary plan, Madam Clerk, and that is that he put a big holding tank down below. And he sent it all to the holding tank, and he pumps that from midnight to 6 in the morning, off-peak hours. Now, he wasn't happy with that because they're expensive to lay the tank out,
Yeah.
and he has to maintain that tank, and he has to maintain the pumps. So he really wasn't, he said he could consider it, but it may not be an option. But we put that out there because the key is the peak, because that's coming to the industrial park. And we have all the businesses that are peak between, they peak at like 8 in the morning
Yeah.
until about 11 o'clock. We did the study of 3 years of flow, and that's when the peak period is. So if he's going to flow during that time, then he's got to make it work. And that's why we suggested that he flow 1% off-peak hours, you see. And so that's their needs as well. And so that's still within his right. If he presents something to us that he's willing to flow it, bring it down and hold it, and then pump it on off-peak hours, well, we'd consider
still-
that,
yeah,
you
right.
see. So he may lower the demand on the pumps by doing that. But that's more costly. It's probably cheaper to do the pumps. But it's totally his decision. It's his money. I'm not going to spend it for him. But we're going to make sure that there's no impact to us and our ratepayers.
Exactly.
And that's going to be our responsibility.
Exactly.
What pump station is that, Guy?
That's Thatcher. I'm sorry, it's Kendrick to Thatcher. So Kendrick goes to Thatcher, then it goes to Springboard. So Kendrick is the first one that's going to be impacted, and then Thatcher. And we've asked them to look at Thatcher also because Thatcher is where all the AV Makepeace products come in.
Exactly.
So we need to look at the peak of that of 50,000 gallons. Well, really 60 because we gave him another 10. So we have to factor the 60 peak to that, and then what's coming for his and plus what we're doing. And so we're asking to look at Thatcher also. And if Thatcher needs more pumps, then he's going to have to do that. So he'll definitely take care of all those pump stations there. And he also has to look at the 8-inch pipe, make sure it can handle the flow and all that good stuff. So that's his responsibility. And if it does, and that's why we have peer review, because when he submits it to us, our engineers review it and tell him yes, no, maybe so, because they're all playing with numbers, and I want to make sure the numbers are correct. So.
Do we know when they're gonna do their presentation to us, or we're still just jockeying back and forth?
I'm thinking within a couple of weeks. I think they're going to try to get on as early as they can because I think they realize there's more work being done. In the future, I've got a call from a company that may want to put a shopping mall across from Walmart's. And so there's going to be more work there, so that's impact. So it's first in line. And if that impacts that station, then somebody's going to have to pay for that. So he'd like to do this ASAP, so I don't know what that means, but I'm suggesting in a couple of weeks he's going to present this to you. So as soon as I get a letter from him, I'll forward the letter to the board, and the board can decide when to put him on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Is Great Hill off of Federal Furnace? Is that?
No, it's right off of 28.
It's off 28, I think.
Whereabouts?
Just up the street from Walmart on the right-hand
What's
side.
that?
It's just up the street from Walmart on the right-hand side. Commissioner
Great
Rob-
Hill?
Yeah, want to know
Yes.
where it is.
Yeah,
So
so,
it's in East Wareham? Or is
no,
it
it's
west?
right across from Walmart in West
The
Wareham.
new one?
The
The
new
new
one,
one, yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Right by
there.
the old pharmacy, the old Chevy dealership.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just past Bell's.
Is it just past Bell's? I don't.
Just past
No, it's
Bell's.
Is it? Yeah. is
Four
it?
Bells.
I think
It's
it's
before Bell's. It's before Bell's,
It's
yeah.
by-
Absolutely,
it's-
because
it's
you got
by the
Mr.
old Cranberry
Barbosa's
Chevrolet.
shop.
Yeah.
Then you've got the storage area, and that's
Yeah.
actually a mall too. And then you've
On
got
here.
the entrance to Great Hill, because Great Hill ties into the back of our industrial park.
It's right by,
Okay.
it's right across the street from Savin Trucking.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
ma'am. Yes,
How
ma'am.
far down does the sewer line go on 28?
You know, at the intersection of Toby Road and where Walmart is, that
Yep.
intersection of
Yes.
Toby Road, that's as far as sewer goes, because then it goes back down towards the industrial park, then across it to Thatcher, then to Kendrick. And then it flows in that manhole, then it gravities all the way down Toby Road and into Springboard. Then Springboard pumps up Main Ave into the main there after the bridge, Toby Bridge, the railroad bridge, and then it gravities to Narrows.
So it doesn't go up Charlotte Furnace Road?
No, ma'am.
Doesn't go up there at all, huh? I didn't know
But
that.
we'll talk about that one day, because the DEP has asked us to grab those mobile homes up there that are in trouble. So we talked about that, going up there and grabbing them, part of the comprehensive wastewater management plan the next round. So, because there's some issues up there with sewer and septic up in that area. You know, it stops right there at the intersection of Toby and 28. Yes. So I wanted you to see that.
Okay.
I've got something, I gave you a beta report and it's not on the list. I want you to see this. It's, we're submitting, this was a rush job, and I tell you, this is crazy. tomorrow's the deadline to submit to the DEP to get on the list for funding for the clarifiers. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So this is their report on that, why we're asking for it. So I want you to have a copy of the report to read at your leisure. That's the report. Where did I have a signature?
That's the signature, that's.
This is the signatory page, and I had it signed by John Foster as
Okay.
acting town administrator.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And because I called Attorney Bowen, somebody has to give Beta permission to submit this. And I gave him permission, but it may not be permission enough, so I called our attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that you could do it, but in the interim, I asked if the acting town administrator could do it. And he said absolutely, so John Foster decided, so I just had that done because the town administrator is a procurement officer, and I figured if I had it done like that, then there's no issue. So John Foster signed it, I have the sign sheet, I've already put it into the system, and I'm faxing that over, I'm emailing it over to Bader, and they're gonna walk it up to the DEP Boston office tomorrow to
Right.
meet the deadline of September
Right.
7th.
Right.
Okay? So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Yep.
We also heard from Russ from G&H, GHD, and I think I sent off an email. The plan that the town of Wareham has through the emergency will satisfy EPA hazardous mitigation plan. So I'm meeting them tomorrow at 9:30, and we're going to move forward on that grant process for covering the basins. So I want you to be aware of that. So we're moving that forward, and we'll do that tomorrow morning at 9:30. And if anybody's around, they're welcome to come to that meeting. We're going to talk about the probes and other things. But part of that meeting is on this grant, because Russ met with Lieutenant Walczak, and they went over it, and they decided it would meet the criteria for the EPA. So we're pretty excited about that, because now we can move that project forward also on covering the basin.
When's the deadline for that to go in?
November, I think it was November 7th or something like that, but it's November. So we have time to fast track this, to do the work, to do the proper work we need to do to get that grant in, and as part of the process. So we're pretty excited about that.
And that's through the FEMA grant.
Yes, ma'am. We thought that we might not be able to get that, and now that plan, and it's really, that was huge. That was huge. Next Thursday, I'm going to be in New Hampshire. I gave you I believe, a copy of the program we're going to. It's the pipe, manhole, and lateral assessment training course to be certified. The camera truck we were trained on today, the camera is operational. It's exciting. We took some video today. It's really neat. Our first official camera, it's a part of the second part of the training, is going to be in Briarwood. We already had something cambered. We're going to go over that again a year later to check out the leak, to see if the leak got worse. And so that'll be our first official training. The owners of that, we're the owners, but the people we bought it from, the trainers are going to come down and do that with us and walk us through it, because then we can do all the intricacies like video in it, typing in the right, where you are, what nail you are, all that. So it's going to be the final part of the training and how to use the actual software. So we're pretty excited about that. And I think it's the 19th we're doing that actual training. And so I'll remind you of it. And you can definitely come and see the truck in the truck and sit in the back. It's turned out to be a good rig, and we're really excited about that. And so we're going to do that training.
So this training kind of actually goes along with that for just the hands-on inspection of some of those other
Yes,
aspects.
this training is a certified program through NASCO, which is also part of NSST, I think it is. It's the trenchless technology. And so you need to know what you're seeing. So when right now we're in Swiss Beach, so we're going to camera Swiss Beach. After we're doing the monitoring for the flow, we ordered a nice little soft, gentle nozzle for the vac on to gently put water there so we can run the camera. And then we're going to look at the lines. We're going to see the conditioning lines. So you'll see cracks, fractures, and there's all terminology, and it gives you an urgency. And so we'll videotape that. The engineers will study the videotapes, and the goal is to decide which lines need the highest priority of lining or replacement, whatever the case may be. And so the goal town-wide is to hit all the high points, the most urgent. That's only done through camera. And once we go through and do the urgents throughout the town, then we can come back and do the secondaries, because this is a long-term study. And so the goal is long-term is to do all the lines, manholes in the town. But because we have a capacity issue,
Right.
We need to get the ones that are hurting us the most and get those out of the system, add that capacity back to the plant to continue development in Wareham. So that's critical. That's the first part of our capacity issue. And so that's why we're doing all this. And so we'll do what we can in Swiss Beach right now. That's why we're doing Ruggles, because that has the highest rate of inflow. So we're doing Ruggles first. And that's why that's called Ruggles area. It's a catchment area for sewer. So we're doing that first. And then right now we're monitoring coming out of the area in Hamilton Beach. We're also right now in Onset. We have a 12-inch line on the beach that we have to do. We know that. And we've done the study. We're doing the study right now in all of Onset. North Boulevard Pump Station, Hines Pump Station, South Water Pump Station, South Central, East Central, no, it's West Central Pump Station. So we're doing all those pump stations now, and we'll get all the excessive, and then that'll direct us to do the lining there. And so again, we'll get the highest contributors to, and then keep doing this throughout the town. Then we're going to Pinehurst, you see, and then we're going to go to Weebiantic, and then we go to Briarwood, because we know we have some issues in Briarwood, and then we'll grab all the high, and then we'll tally that up. And then we can still, okay, now we're going to again do the main drives and the whole line gas. Then we can do the 628s and all that. So that's the goal.
So, and then we're looking at the whole of the repairs and things like that, again, looking towards the trenchless technology and using that to try to hit some of those repairs?
Yes, ma'am. It's much.
Great.
We're going to look. All the technologies on the table.
Yep.
You've got the E1 low pressures. You've got the replacement, the deep dig replacements. You've got trenchless technology. So it's going to be in the best interest of the town, because we look for impact to the community. We look for the cost. When you go down and repair a pipe that's 17 feet in the ground in water table, the shoring itself will nail you. Between the shoring and the dewatering, it's a huge, tremendous cost. And so that's a consideration. So we may look at it and say trench technology is a better way to go.
Right.
We're leaning that way because it's showing us that. But after the engineers evaluate, we'll present it to the board and we'll decide what's the best way to go. You'll have all the facts and you can look at it. And we're also going to invite you to, as we're doing this, because to get involved we think is important.
Mm-hmm.
We're planning to go to Taunton. They're doing some lining right now of some pipes. And I'm going to set up a date. It'll be a Wednesday afternoon, and we'll try to do it sooner than later. I'd like to invite everybody down, so at least to see it, so we can do it a few times and see what we're talking about when it comes to relining pipes, to get a concept of how this works, what's entailed, and to see, what I really want you to see is the impact to the community. If we're digging those roads, it's a tremendous impact to the community. If we're lining it, minimizes the impact, it's a little cheaper to do, and so there's some benefits. And so that's going to be you guys are going to be waiting with the task of making those decisions. We'll present everything to you, we'll do all the research, and you can tell us the best way for the town to go. So that's
I just have I have a couple of comments, and I know getting all this stuff is important to analyze and to identify situations. However, I'm wondering how you have the manpower, because I mean we were talking about getting to the catch basins. Where are we on the catch basins?
catch basins are done. The manholes are done. So now we
They're
got
all done throughout the town?
In the Swiss Beach area.
Oh, the Swiss Beach
Yes,
area.
because that's where we're working right now. So we're going to do them as we go along.
Okay.
And bluntly, that's why I'm going to get certified, because I'm joining the workforce. You know, because we have to do what we have to do, and I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I have to do it. And like the manholes, they've been out diligent. They're going to finish those up tomorrow, actually, because the engineers have to have that. That's part of the plan in Swiss Beach. Then we're going to continue on. And so what I'm doing is Tuesdays and Thursdays is manhole days. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is camera days. Then I'm added to the crew. So on those days, I'll schedule, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll do all my meetings in the office. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll be out in the field doing this. So I can split the crew. So it's a task, and it's not easy. And it's like just getting the camera truck ready. I was out there working with Ron today. I mean, it's just what I have to do. And that's...
It's just a concern. I mean, because we all
Me
know
too.
that the Department of Maintenance has a graveyard of equipment up there with nobody to operate it.
Absolutely.
So I just, don't want to fall into that same situation. We're getting all this stuff and we don't have, I mean, where are we getting the man hours to do all this? It's just a point.
I hear you.
Okay.
Trust me, I hear you. And the two new laborers we have, one of them's going with us to be trained, the other one is, so they're going to get involved, and we're splitting up. We're going to leave 2 people in the plant and everybody else going to the field, and we're working that through, because I hear what you're saying, and I was concerned as much as you were, because we've got a lot to do. And it takes, and it's not so much the personnel, it's the effort of the personnel that's critical, and so that's what we're working on. and I'm adding myself to the picture. So, yes, point well taken, and I appreciate it. So, we're moving forward.
I mean, it is in terms of, to our best detriment, and I mean, our benefit, to actually continue finding as much of the infiltrate as we can to try to reduce that so that we can capture that extra gallons in there and mitigate some of the other issues that we have going on.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I agree with Guy 100%. I just wonder where and how we're doing it.
And
So-
we've also added our management into the workforce. Brian's into the workforce, John's into the workforce, so we're actually doing more. It's because we have a lot going on. So now, as managers, we have to become chief cook bottle washers, laborers, floor washers, managers. We just have to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And that's a responsibility, and we'll see what happens. And I'll fight the fights, because there's some fights we're going to have. and we'll
Are
have to
you
fight it.
able to get your people on board? That's
We
going
got
to
a
be
percent,
the
you're right.
difficult
We got-
challenge.
Yes, absolutely. There's always going to be that few that, but yes, we're getting the majority, and we're working towards getting more and more. And if 50% of my force is willing to work hard, I'll get this work done, because I'm going to add myself and John. We're going to be in the workforce. I just have to do it, and we're going to do it. Because it's important. We're responsible for it. It's our obligation. We're going to get it done. So I just wanted to bring up on that. So that takes care of everything I had on the list.
So
See
we
this,
won't
see
have
this.
a superintendent's report next week then, because you'll be in Manchester.
I'm going to send you a report of things that are going on
Right.
and any kind of attachments that you can have. But I'll be in Manchester next week at it's University of Southern New Hampshire.
Yep.
We'll be at that campus for 3 days, learning on how to run this equipment and how to now analyze the data that we're grabbing as we go along. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yep.
It really is. It truly is.
Okay, I have a question. I want to go back to the camera.
Yes.
Right now, we're concentrating on the Swifts and the Hamilton Beach area.
Correct.
Do you have a timetable for that, Guy?
We're hoping to have that area completed by October. So we're going to finish off August, all of September and October to camera that area and have all that finalized as to where we are in Swiss Beach. And at that point, it's going to be your responsibility with the engineers to move us forward.
Okay.
Okay, and then we can look at costs, how do we get that money, do we apply for SR funding, that's going to be,
Is this the oldest part of the system, our current system?
no,
The
it's,
Swiss Beach area?
no, it's the most leaky right now.
Okay, all right. Because I know it's old. I know it's the
Yeah, it's
70s.
in
I know it's
70s,
70s, but
yes,
I didn't
ma'am.
know.
But it's the most leaky right now,
Okay.
and so we're trying to go after the areas that have the greatest infiltration and inflow, because we're trying to create gallons for capacity to keep going on, keep serving the town. But it's the leakiest.
So as far as traffic impact, have we, or should we, send something out to the newspapers to say what days we'll be in that area?
That's a good question. I'm talking to the police. I'll talk to the chief of police and his lieutenants and figure out what's the best way. What we're thinking of doing, yes, we'll tell the neighbors we have to, because we're thinking of shutting roads down, because there's a lot of roads to go around. It isn't like if I shut, let's say I'm doing Bayview. Bayview's in 3 sections. If I shut down this section of Bayview and I'm in there with trucks, then you can just go to the next road, so I don't inhibit. It's just people that live on Bayview will deal with that traffic. But yes, I think the best way is probably, for me, is to walk and hand out, knock on doors and say, because I think that's the one-on-one to the neighborhoods. Then also tell the newspapers, and we can put it on the website. What we're going to do is we're going to go in the neighborhood. and
So
tell
if we
the
can
neighbors.
develop kind of a schematic of what streets you're going to be
Okay.
looking at in the next few weeks,
Yes.
then we can shoot that off to the newspapers and also to
Yeah.
Matt Underhill, so that he can put a flag on our town website
Right.
that's a banner that says we'll be working in Swifts Beach.
Okay.
This is our project and these are the streets that will be impacted.
Because we already have that, and so to your point, a good
Right.
point. I'll get that to Matt sooner than later, and we'll get to the newspaper sooner than later.
Right.
And then we can give them, we're looking to do this in September and October. And then we can, as we get to the close of that, can walk and hand out flyers specific to the days.
Right.
Right now, we can generally give them an area, a time frame, and what roads we're going to be in, what's going to be impacted. I agree. So I'll do that tomorrow.
Right, and even
I'll
if
get
it's,
that
if we
prepared.
post it,
Yeah, good point.
Well, I don't know if they all have, there are some bulletin boards down in the Swifts Beach area, but they're closer to the water. Even
They
if
have
we
an
posted one
association
there.
there.
They have
I
an
know,
association.
So maybe we can contact the association
Yeah,
also.
I'd like to know what
We
that
have the same thing.
association president, who that is.
I'll try to find out, but they have an association, so that's a good
Right.
venue for us to get information
Right.
into
Right.
that neighborhood also. So I'll find
bet
out,
you-
see if I can find out.
I
what
bet
that
you
would be.
Diane Higgins is, she used to be the voice down there, wasn't she? Jimmy? Diane Higgins? Yeah.
I don't know. I bet you if I went to the real estate office, Voss Real Estate, they would tell me.
They would
who-
know.
With the
They would
associ-
tell me where,
Right.
yeah, so I'll go down there and get that, because
Yeah.
that's gonna be a good avenue while it's still summer. It'd be good, they'll get it out to
Right.
the public.
And as you go into these other areas, whether it's Briarwood or in sections of Onset, those association presidents I'd like to touch base with too at some point, because there are ratepayers,
Yes,
and,
ma'am.
so if we do plan an open house at some point, I'd like to get the associations involved so they know where we're going and what we're heading, so they don't get any surprises at the end and not be with us through this whole process of setting a rate.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's probably
ma'am.
very good because of the fact too that since a lot of the associations are in full swing in the summer months and pretty much until Columbus Day weekend,
Yeah.
we don't want to give them any surprises coming up later on when they come back.
The summer residents, because
Summer
they are a
residents.
big, that's a big
Right, rate paying.
factor of our ratepayers, our summer
Mhm.
residents.
Great.
I'll do that.
Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
going to the training, Guy. And putting yourself in that workforce.
Yeah, it's some of I enjoy it. And I really enjoy it. I miss.
Well, that comes across in your enthusiasm. Yeah. Believe me, it does.
I
We're
kinda miss
very
being in the field.
fortunate that you are the plant superintendent, because you're very enthusiastic and very thorough with your work. So we're the fortunate ones in that respect.
Thank you. Sometimes I think I am. I get paid to do this, and it amazes me. I have the forms, and I'll leave it for you. It's the actual EPA submission.
Okay.
I have that. So what I'll do is, after I get it to them tomorrow, I'll make copies and get it to you folks. But this is the actual DEP submission for
Right.
the clarified.
And there's no signature necessary for us on that because you said John Foster.
John Foster
That's
signed it.
right. When I was looking through it when it was the signature folder, I said, oh, this isn't really ours, so good.
No, it's, because I took the signatures here.
Yep.
Because I had John Foster sign it, because originally when they sent it to me, it was Derek. And so I immediately started making some phone calls because Derek's out of town.
Right.
So I said, okay, I have a problem. So that's why I contacted the attorney first and said, okay, can the sewer commissioner sign it? And he says, yes.
Right,
I
but
also
we
just
weren't
sent-
meeting until tonight, and
Yes.
you need to get that, it
And
needs to
I
be hustled to the state tomorrow, so.
Yes, ma'am. And I sent it over to John Foster as acting town administrator when he signed it. So John said yes, attorney said yes. So I ran up there, got the signature. I'm done, and we'll get this submitted. So
Good.
It's fast tracked.
It's, right.
And the same with the Granicus. We don't have to do anything until we get the,
The
yeah,
final
until
approval.
we get
Final
the amendment from
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney Bowen.
And when I get that, we'll clean it up, and I'll give you a copy of the final. And what we'll do is we'll send it over to Granicus, because they're going to sign before anybody else.
Right.
And once they sign, then we'll have Derek sign it, and we'll be done. Because the new thing now is, in the town, is Derek signs everything, whether it's $1 or $1 million.
Right.
We have to get his signature. And, so that's what we're doing. Okay, what it is, he's going to sign it. Yeah, and we're figuring, the issue is, anything under $5,000 didn't need procurement, doesn't come under procurement laws. But Wareham said it does, and so we're going to adhere to the policy of the town. The state policy is a little different, but the town has a right to set their policy, which they have. And they're saying that Derek is to see it, and so it is what it is. And so everything we do, I'll have Derek sign it, and that just keeps, everything the way the town prefers it. That's their purview.
Right, because he should sign before we do, so that if in fact it needs our signature. It may not, since he's the chief procurement officer, and we are, that is not in our duties as sewer commissioners. That's one of the things we are prohibited from doing as sewer commissioners.
But I do want the sewer commissioners knowledgeable of everything that's going on,
Yes,
because you
definitely.
are technically responsible for this facility.
Exactly.
Even though you don't sign for procurement, you need knowledge of that and so what I'm going to ask the board is to initial it to form or sign to form. because you need to know, and that's gonna assure everybody that you know what's going on.
Well,
Because
we
it
need
should-
to know what's going
have
on
to.
because we are the stewards of the enterprise
Yes,
fund, so
ma'am.
no money leaves unless we say it leaves. So if there's a procurement issue, we are the ones who are paying for it, so they have to ask our permission to use the money.
And I just think, for me, in the big picture, the more, we have checks and balances, and I think everybody will definitely get to the point where, no matter what people's feelings are, the sewer enterprise is part of Wareham.
It
The town
is.
of Wareham is part of Wareham. And we all have to do in the best interest of the taxpayers and the ratepayers. Our responsibility is to the ratepayers. And so
Exactly.
everything we do, we need to keep the ratepayers in mind, because that's who's charging us to do what
Right.
we do.
That's right.
And so their best interest is ours, and then we migrate that to the town's best
That's
interest.
right.
And that's what we
I
have
think
to
it's
do.
lost sometimes in the translation that ratepayers are also taxpayers.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
So they are doubly taxed, if you want to
Yes,
put it loosely.
That's right.
So our job is to make sure that their money is spent wisely, and that's what we're going to do.
Yes, I agree. I consider my position, I consider a privilege, because I consider myself, however you want to take it, as CEO of the ratepayers. They are my holders. They're
Right.
all the holders
They're
of the
the
money.
stockholders.
Absolutely.
That's what I
And
say. They're
absolutely.
stockholders.
So
Yep.
I have to make sure that everything, the decision I make, is in their best interest. I have to try to always put that in the forefront. Is this for the better good of the ratepayers? Even though it's not going to be for everyone, but for the majority, for the better good of the enterprise, is what I have to consider. I truly do.
Right, we
Because
answerable to
they're paying
them.
for everything that we do.
Okay.
They truly are.
Oh,
Great.
So,
So we're done with that report?
we're done with that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Did you get the odor problems taken care of as well?
That was my question too.
Oh, okay, good question. The odor problems, that's a good point. We had an odor complaint for 2 specific days at a very specific time. So we investigated it. The wind was out of the north-northeast. The wind was blowing to the north-northeast, which is from the river to us. We also went to ties. And to answer your question, what we did is we adjusted the odor control unit. And in our research, I have no indication of where that odor actually came from. Based upon, we run a chart. I don't know if I sent everybody. We take the wind direction
Yep. On
24 hours a day,
the time.
7 days a week
Right.
at that station.
Right.
Okay, so that helps us determine. We're never going to refuse or never going to pass the blame on anything. We'll always assume our responsibility to mitigate the odors, because that's what we do. We're not a maker of chocolate. But to help us solve the issue or find out where that odor is it the basin? Is it a biofilter?
Right.
Is it a process out back? Is it one of the basins? We rely on wind direction
Yep.
and interaction from the neighbors. When I ask a question, and sometimes it puts people off, but when I say, what does it smell like?
Right.
I can tell you that the answers I get are beyond what I'm looking for. But what I'm looking for, is it a fishy smell? Do I chase ammonia? Is it a rotten egg smell? Am I chasing mercaptans or H2S? And I need direction. So if they help me, and that's why I asked that foolish
Oh,
question.
Hold on a second.
Yes,
That's,
ma'am.
that's a good, that's a good point. And maybe in our newsletter, we could explain that to the residents, because, when is it a fishy smell?
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but it's
smells like-
awful.
Yes, ma'am.
It's,
Yes, ma'am.
and if we could say, hey, if you can tell us if it smells like fish or if it smells like this, I know it doesn't seem important to you, but it does to us, so we can know what chemicals to adjust for each odor. That would be helpful.
One of the things I'm envisioning happening, and maybe you are as well, Guy, I don't put words in your mouth, but when the Granicus comes back on and we have that option of the button
Yes, ma'am.
system, where you can just click to say, if here you can file an odor complaint. What time is it? Does it smell like ABCD? We can load in exactly what it is. Where do you live? So we know what direction it was.
Right.
And they can do that anonymously. We're not going to go look up their addresses, but then we can collect more data rather than just wind direction with an email with some information other than the fact that it smells. So I'm envisioning, you know, the newsletter, putting in the newsletter would be great if they can include that in their email, but I'm envisioning the fastest we can get Granicus approved and up and running, to put that in there, that they can just go to the Granicus, it's gonna provide us with the data that we want. It's 24/7 operational, they can go on there anytime that they want to, and we'll have a data collection instead of just random emails that we have to then go back and research to try to figure out and say, where did it come from this time? And then maybe then be the odor control be a little more this, or you're going to add a little more aeration or turn the bubbles down on the basin, or you're going to change whatever that is over this course of time, and we can start to get that data.
Well, we've had the bubbles down on the basin now for a
They're
while.
off.
They're
Right.
off.
They're off.
So,
They're not
and the
mixed
wind
anything.
coming from the north-northeast means it's blowing away from that, it's blowing away from that neighborhood. It's blowing from the river towards the plant, which is not in the direction that wind would carry it into Linwood and Ladd Avenues. Now, I drive and I go down there and I walk Linwood and Ladd Avenue daytime, nighttime, sometimes quite late at night. I can smell the misters, I can smell whatever's coming out of the misters at times. The few nights that I've been down there when it was very hot, it was just, there was no wind.
You said it's Monday and Tuesday night this week, right?
I believe it was. I think it was the second,
It was
third, or
Monday,
whatever it was.
Tuesday.
Well,
and-
there was a huge issue with a dead sea turtle that's now out in front of Long Beach that's wreaking havoc with stench. So who knows where it migrated itself into and around for it. I mean, we're talking bad smell.
And keep in mind, there's some abandoned discharges along where the neighborhood is, along next to you come out the last house, go to the left, and all along the ocean, the river, there's abandoned outfalls. Now they could collect different things, so that's why I asked the question, trying to figure out where the odor's coming from, and so we have to find it. If it isn't the basin this given night, doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's not us, I'm not
Right,
shirking my
that's right,
responsibility, but it may be someplace
Right.
else, and I need to find that. Because we're starting to walk the water now to look at these abandoned outfalls. Because they could be a source, because there's still groundwater, there could be some residual. We've got a landfill there that's been capped, and we pump water out of that. So I can look, I want to look at everything. Because if they have an issue, my job is to try to solve that issue. We're not ignoring it, we're not, we have compassion, and we understand the neighbors, we truly, truly do. So all the help that we can get, and some have been very helpful, I'll never say that they haven't been. Some have been very helpful, they've been very patient, and I appreciate that, because for us to solve the problem, it's gonna take a team effort, but I need to, and I don't wanna antagonize, but these questions have to be asked,
Right.
they have to be answered, and we have to figure it out.
And
We can
that-
be great at what we know.
And that's why I really think that the Granicus system would be much less intimidating than getting an email back saying, well, can you describe what it smells
Yes.
like?
Yes.
Whereas
I do answer all the emails, and in the future, I am going to I'm going to reply to all. Usually I just reply to the one person who sends me an email, but in the future, I'm going to reply to all, so that everybody knows, because I've had a couple of emails saying, why aren't you returning the emails? Why aren't you're not answering the emails? And I am, but I'm not replying to all, because it is sometimes it's a long trail of an email. Yeah. And we found some issues with them not coming through all the way to the sewer
Yeah.
commission, is they're not getting all of them because if they weren't on the original email, they don't follow the trail.
it doesn't get threaded out. If it's one huge, that's what happened, I think, with some communication that we had back and forth between Granicus too. That is, if the person wasn't included in the original thread, or didn't open the original thread piece, then all of the other threads don't come through. So I had no idea with the odors in that standpoint, or some of the couple of Granicus ones, until I had actually gone way farther down with, which was an email I had missed, and then popped that open, and out opens 17 more of them. So it's just the way that the town system delivers the email to us. If it's embedded in a thread, we don't see the next email about it.
Mine comes separate because it's under my name, so I usually get them, but I will reply to all now so that they all know that we are answering them. And, another point to make is this isn't an easy or a quick fix. We've got to determine where it is, and then we have to mitigate it. And in some, like the basins, that's not gonna be an overnight fix. It's gonna take a long time from getting the funding, even, we just started the process to apply for the funding, and then going on and on and on. It could be years before we get those basins covered. I mean, we'll try to do it as quickly as possible, but
Absolutely.
But I think we need to inform people too, though, in terms of the holistic picture, that besides all the little pieces that went into place. So covering the bases is an issue, but reducing the amount of inflow into the bases is an issue, which goes back to the can we recover some of the I&I that's going in so that we don't have as much inflow into the basins? Can we put the pump stations on their timers so that they're not pumping in all at once?
Exactly.
Can we deal with the grease from the restaurants, these are all things that we're working on madly, very madly, since this commission came into play. I mean, when you think of the amount of information that we've sucked in the last couple of months, it's phenomenal of what, and the issues that we're addressing and what we're moving forward on. So, you know, I understand that the smell can be, is a problem, but we're addressing it in many avenues as quickly as we possibly can without having our hands tied by some other aspects.
Yes, ma'am. And it's been a problem for 45 years around that time.
Right.
And so we are addressing it. We're not ignoring it.
No.
To answer your question directly, yes, we're hitting it. We're trying to locate it. And we're really diligently every single day. We have odor. The windsock, the weather station, we have an odor alert. We're doing our very best.
You're working
Very,
with,
very best.
you're working with the company who provided us the cover to the basin. They're gonna install the sniffers, you said.
Yes.
So, I mean,
We're going to monitor that 24 hours.
Right.
So we're hitting every area, and we're doing everything we can, as you say, a holistic, collective
Right.
approach to the problem.
I really want
We're
to
really
look
working
for
at
it.
it. And I got to say, I leave there, I drive there. When I got the order
That'd be
complaint at
like
7:30, I left at 6:30, and when I do my drive around,
I think it should.
I was pretty happy. But something happened between
think it should.
6:30 and then at 7:30, and that's what I got to figure out. And I'm looking at flow data, wind data, tide data, every bit of data I can take in
Right,
to
right,
look
comes
at,
out of the
to try to make
Northeast
a
Saturday
decision,
and Sunday.
where do we go to solve this
It
problem?
will
Because
it will
I-
be this Saturday. and
I need
Sunday,
them to
too.
have a quality of life too, and we're trying real
Right.
hard. We're not
Check it
ignoring
again this weekend. I'll
So
be
thanks, I
back this
forgot,
weekend.
good
I'm
thing for
liking
bringing it up, I forgot, I should have been in my report, I apologize. Good point.
okay, so you're done with your sewer superintendent's report,
Yes, ma'am.
but don't go anywhere,
No, I'm
because I
not.
have a
I'm
couple
here.
of quick questions.
Absolutely, I'm here.
The water department, I know that we need contacts, and you had mentioned that we need some type of an agreement with them.
Oh, good, yes.
I went down to the water department and met a few people and said hello, just to tell them that we're working on these rates. And we're gonna need an overlay of their meters, and because they don't match some of the other things we have. So I don't know the procedure guide that you or the town wishes me to follow at this point as far as making contact with them, whether we need a contract in place in order to work with them, or whether it's just an agreement of understanding with them that we will need some of their water department data.
I would suggest, and just
Okay.
purely
I'm
suggestion,
ready.
that we meet with each sewer commission,
Sewer
each commissioners.
commissioners.
So there would be water commissioners from Onset, water commissioners from Wareham, and I would suggest that you guys sit with them
Yep.
and develop some type of MOU, generally speaking. Let's go to Onset specifically. I sent the bill to Onset for $9,000, I believe it is, or maybe not quite that much, for the repairs we did. They broke a sewer line. We spent the winter 2 nights, or actually one full night and 2 days after that to fix the repair. This department paid for it, so I billed them. I know there was some consensus in town that we should not bill them. So I don't really care, it's gonna be your board's decision, but I billed them because the fiscal year was coming to an end, and so he can always forgive the bill. So my suggestion is that we discuss the bill, and an MOU is how we're gonna interact. If they break one of my pipes, I fix it, at my cost, no problem. If I break one of their pipes, they fix it, no cost, no problem. So I think that's part of your discussion and conversation. That's one of them. And the other would be how to proceed between the two boards on water, because water consumption is their game, and we're going to use that to bill. And so you guys have to decide how that's going to happen. So by meeting with each water commissioner board, then you guys can set the ground rules. Once we get that established, then we can figure out where we need to go legally, ethically, morally, whatever, but that'll give us direction as to where we need to go. And because commissioners to commissioners, one-to-one, discuss it and figure out where to go. That's what I would suggest. It's at that level that these discussions have to take.
I would suggest we meet with one water department at a time. and then
Yes,
if
absolutely,
we come up with
absolutely.
something, then we meet collectively with both of them.
Well, yeah, I agree. What I'm saying is that you meet with onset, discuss onset, then you meet with Wareham. I'm not saying all together, because they do things differently, they're separate.
Absolutely.
So, no, that's what I'm saying. So you meet with the Wareham Water meets with sewer, and then onset water meets with sewer, and because it's commissioner for commissioner. You guys should talk at that level of government, if you will. You need to decide where to go, because this,
But there's
Right.
certain information that we need that's gonna be universal information that we need from both departments similarly.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yep.
we've gotta get them on the same page that we're on, or we've gotta get on the same page that they're on.
Yes.
One.
But we're only gonna develop one policy.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you gotta meet with them, and I would suggest you guys meet with
Yeah.
them, and you guys
Is-
take care of that.
Is J.T. McGinney, John English, and Ricky Anglin, those are the three in Wareham, aren't they?
I don't know. They were, but I don't know who it is
No.
now. It's changed.
Yeah.
Try again?
Ricky Anglin,
Yeah.
John English, and J.T. McGinney.
You-
Teddy
I-
English is one.
Yeah,
Remember
I think you're
Teddy
right. I
had-
think you're right.
yeah, 'cause
I
Teddy
know
had
Teddy's
resigned.
right. No, I know that.
And Ricky Anglin took his,
That's right.
took
that's
his
right.
spot.
I'm trying to
Is
remember.
that commissioner or the other one?
the water commissioners.
Yeah, because we have one commissioner, I think
That's
that's
where-
Prudential, I just want to confuse.
Yeah, I don't know who the ones in onset are. Does anyone know who's in onset?
I don't know. I deal with
Hmm?
you know, my level, I deal with Paul and onset, but I can get all the information for you if you don't have it. I can ask Paul who his commissioners are, and then give them to you folks, and you can make the contact and set this up. Or if you want Rebecca to do that, you give her permission, and she'll make the contact and help you, and then set it up
That's
for you.
just, that's
however you
just a
wanna do
phone
it.
call, not on it.
Yeah, that's not a,
It's not a big
You guys can do, and I have a problem, but I believe, that's what I believe. It's government to government. You guys need to take care of it. I think
I
discuss it with
I
them.
was thinking of that too.
Yeah, the town's not really involved in this.
No,
No,
no.
No.
not yet.
Because neither water department works for the town.
Absolutely not, no.
All right, so I will touch base with Rebecca then and find out who they are, and I'll either make the contact in the next few weeks and see if we can come together. When are you meeting again with Mike Schrader, Madam Clerk?
Next week,
Next week?
4:30 on Thursday.
Next Thursday, yeah.
All right, so I will wait until I speak with you after you speak with Schrader in case there's any additional information I would request them
Well,
so
we-
I have an idea of what I'm asking them to come with.
Well, we have a set of well, not officially yet. They have a set of data from the department that would actually probably have to go to Lee to have account matched to address.
Mm-hmm.
So right now what's happening is our WPC account numbers are not matched to the correct address that the water department has for a water department address, if that makes sense. So I think there was 900 out of the 6,000 accounts or something like that are not able to be melded together.
Right.
So we have that particular preliminary data. I think one of the things that we need to discuss with the water departments is going to be going forward when we go to the hybrid rate in 017 or whatever date we vote on. We're going to be needing to collect their read data on a continual basis for our billing data of our system. So,
Well, you
That-
do have an issue, and what we'll have to determine is when the billing is gonna go out, when we're gonna do billing, how we're gonna do
that's
billing.
correct.
Because the water department, I believe, Wareham at least,
Does every month.
does every month.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
Onset does twice a year, I think.
They do quarterly.
They're quarterly.
They read-
something
they're
like
on-
that. It
they're on
wasn't
a-
the-
right.
They're not the same as Wareham.
That's correct. So we understand that, and we have the accounts are broken down actually the way into onset accounts and Wareham accounts. And we have a timeline of who bills at what cycles for those, and then how ours fall is, so basically one of the things in our education to ratepayers, we're gonna have to explain to them that their sewer bill may be 6 months lag time, because of when their water meter was read
Right.
cycle-wise. So they might be getting their summer sewer bill, which they should think is higher, and it's really the read of the water usage during the winter months. And that's something we're going to need to discuss, but that's what we're working on with Mike Schrader. We're looking at all that. But the first part is to make sure that the data was tabulated. So the real conversation with the water department water departments and the water commission is how are we going to need an agreement to collect that data, have them provide that data to us on a frequent basis once we go into the hybrid system. Not so much can you give it to us now, because they were pretty willing to work with Ty and Bond to give it to them.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to need to look at, hopefully they were going to rerun the spreadsheets to see if we could see which accounts were exactly out of arrears, so that we were going to give Lee 900 things to maybe sit down with her and have her try to match and go, well, no, that's really this address and that's this address, and see how data-wise. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Everybody understand that? So we really don't need to can we have all your data right now? It's how do we want to work it out down the line to say, when are you going to be able to give it to us? Are you going to have to charge us for that data, or the pay of the person who has to push the button to send us the data? And I think we're looking to see if it would work with Veda,
Yes.
and would it correlate and be able to interact with Veda. So
And VDOT said it would, because they say that the program was designed for water-based billing. So it's just, when we change it to EDU billing, so they say they can bring it back to water-based billing. So we already checked with VDOT to see if we can migrate it to VDOT and then send the bills out through VDOT.
Are they changing that? Because they went to several seminars on getting rid of Veda.
That's still under discussion. There's no decision on that at the moment. There's support for it, but there's also a negative.
Yes.
Okay.
So does that clarify what we'll need to
Yep.
discuss? Okay.
Okay. All right, the next thing I had was, we had that Tam Young agreement, and we paid them $41,000, Guy.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all said and done, and it's a done deal. We paid them, it's done. We got some paperwork on that, but not all of it. I thought we would get the entire
Package.
lawsuit, the whole packet on it, but he gave us just Mr. Bowen gave us just the,
Okay, he gave us the agreement. At the office, I'll ask Rebecca, we made a booklet of all the paperwork, all the depositions. It's about this thick. So it's at the office. If you want that, I'll get you, or you can come see it.
I'll come and see it.
Come see it, because Rebecca has the whole history of this case, and the filings, and the depositions, and we did that, all that. We've been doing that for the last year and a half, maybe a little longer.
Okay.
The appraisals and all that stuff we have, so that's in the booklet for. We made a copy
Okay,
for
I'll
him.
come and take a
so
look at
that's what I would look at.
I just want to make sure. And then I guess that's it. There is that was any unfinished business. The only last part of unfinished business it's the questions for you, Mr. Gibberti. Have they met on the intermunicipal agreement yet? No. Okay. All right. So, and does anybody have any questions or anything they want to discuss further? No? Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Just as an aside, the next meeting is the 13th. And the only reason that I'm holding these meetings not for 2 weeks is to make sure we get our minutes all done so that we can send any letters we have.
So we're
to
meeting
Lord.
again next week.
Yes, we are.
Eventually, we're going to two.
And then we're not meeting again until the 27th of
I
August.
see it, you've got it written there.
Yep.
That's for Susan.
You can always call a special
If we need
if
to.
we need it.
I think we need a little rest. Okay. So we can catch up on our homework, which is,
Guy?
It's gonna get a lot of, you tell me how to get it, and I'm gonna put everything in the trail, all the plans and everything. Help me how to get things to you.